स्मरामि हृदि स्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तं अवैति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्मनिष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः प्रातर्भजामि मनसा वचसामगम्यम् वाचो विभान्ति निखिला यदनुग्रहेण यन्नेति नेति वचनैर्निगमा अवोचुः तं देवदेवमजमच्युतं आहुरग्र्यम् प्रातर्नमामि तमसः परमर्कवर्णम् पूर्णं सनातनपदं पुरुषोत्तमाख्यम् यस्मिन्निदं जगदशेषम् अशेषमूर्तौ रज्ज्वां भुजङ्गमयिव प्रतिभासितं त्वयि प्रातर्नमामि तमसः परम् अर्कवर्णम्. I do salute, I bow down to Namami, unto that Parameshvara who is Atma. And the words, rest of the words describe that entity, Atma, Brahmatma, Ishvara, unto whom I do namaskar. Tamasaha param, beyond. Param here is beyond. Beyond tamasaha, beyond darkness. That is where there is no darkness. Here darkness is figurative, not literal, figurative. Darkness called Ajnanam, Avidya. Atma, I the Atma, I am always free from the effect of Avidya. Who has Avidya? Avidya is about what? Avidya of what? And then who has Avidya? These two questions are asked. Avidya of what? And who has Avidya? Now, you say, who has Avidya? Jiva has Avidya. The unenlightened Jiva has Avidya. The one who takes oneself as samsari is Avidyavan Purusha. Avidyavan means having Avidya. The one who has Avidya. Avidyavan Purusha. That person, that entity who has Avidya, that is the Avidyavan. So Jiva, it is said in one. There are two ways of presenting this. Who has Avidya? That is, where does avidya reside? Suppose I say, I have a knowledge of something, some specific thing. Say algebra, trigonometry. I have knowledge of trigonometry. Then that knowledge, where does it abide? Where does it reside? In me. I am the abode. I am the residence for that knowledge, right? So if I say ignorance, then where does ignorance reside? What is the ashraya? Ashraya means residence. Where is it placed? Where does it reside? In one way, there are two ways of presenting it. In one way, it is said that jiva is the ashraya, the abode, the place where avidya exists, avidya resides. Remember Swakale, in its time, when avidya is there, that is when vidya is not there, then avidya resides in the jiva. After all, it is jiva who takes himself, herself to be subject to avidya samsara. Right? Therefore, jiva is the ashraya, the place where avidya resides. This is one way. Now, another way is Atma is the ashraya of the avidya. There is another way. Atma, it is said, Atma is the ashraya, or it is said, Brahman, Brahma is the ashraya for avidya also, it is said. That's a little tricky way of presenting, tricky way, there's a little trickier to understand that. When you say Atma is the ashraya, does it mean that Atma is subject to avidya? No, Atma is not subject to avidya. Atma is just the ashraya of avidya. After all, Atma, Brahmatma is the ashraya for everything. Right? For everything, Atma is the ashraya. So when avidya is an vyavaharika vastu, vyavaharika entity, when we talk of, again, it cannot, something else cannot be the ashraya of avidya. Atma alone or Brahma alone is the ashraya of avidya. So Brahma ashraya, avidya. We can, that way also it is said. So Jiva is the ashraya or Brahma is the ashraya. Both ways it is presented. Both are okay. Looking at from different perspective, both are okay. Right? Looking at who has avidya, I the Jiva have avidya. Fine, that is true. That is valid. Who has avidya? Brahma, Atma has avidya. That is, Atma has means Atma is the ashraya, the abode of avidya. Here when you say Atma Brahma is the abode of avidya, it does not mean there that Atma is affected, afflicted by ignorance. It does not. Like even to say what is the abode for all this universe, for all the planets and stars, Akasha, space, we say. Space is the place where all the planets and stars abide, they reside. Now, just because space is the residence, is the Avakasha Pradhanam. Avakasha Pradhanam is done by space. Space lends existence. Space allows them to exist in it. Just because these things exist in space, it does not automatically mean that space is affected by these entities. Right? It is said that it is the ashraya only. Ashraya does not automatically mean being affected by that. Right? Does not automatically mean that. Therefore, here, Atma is the ashraya, Brahma is the ashraya of avidya. That means, that does not mean that Atma is affected by avidya. Atma is the ashraya, the adhishtanam. Avidya also, in the final say, is only a namarupa. Avidya also is a namarupa only. So, when you say tamasaha param, that is beyond this tamas called avidya. who is that? What is that beyond? Atma. Atma is beyond tamasaha, beyond tamas, untouched by tamas, being the ashraya of avidya, but untouched by avidya. That is, so it is above. Right? It is said that Atma is param, tamasaha, from avidya, param, above. Above here means untouched. Right? Untouched. See, when you say, so and so person, a great man, a great person is there, say, this great person is above smallness, meanness, when we say, pettiness, when we say, this big person, this great person is above meanness, smallness. What do you mean by above? He does not have, that person, he or she, does not have the meanness, is not touched by smallness, meanness. So, above here means untouched by. That is one meaning. Another meaning is, tamas, that is avidya, is vyavaharika, whereas Atma, Brahma is paramarthika. Considering the order of reality, Atma, Brahma is paramarthika, therefore it is above vyavaharika. So, in two senses, above here means untouched by tamas and its effects. Second meaning, tamasaha param here means it's of a different order of reality. Paramarthika it is. Atma, Brahma is paramarthika. Tamasaha param. Like even we saw, like even Sansa the other day, there can be sambandha, there can be connection between two entities belonging to the same order of reality. Only two things having the same order of reality can have some connection. Right? Like even my two fingers come in contact. My fingers come in contact with each other and the palm. These fingers have the same reality. Then only they can come in connection, contact with each other. So, Atma being paramarthika, I, the Sakshi being paramarthika, and all this avidya and its effects are all nama rupa, they are all vyavaharika. Therefore, vyavaharika does not touch paramarthika, does not affect paramarthika. Therefore, I am tamasaha param. It is the jiva who thinks that I am avidyavan, I am a samsari, I am a sukhi dukhi, karta bhokta, parichinna, being subject to the buffeting of the world and circumstances, right? Events, surroundings. I am troubled by or influenced by or affected by the circumstances, external things. The one who takes oneself as good as the body, mind, sense complex. Shariram aham, manaha aham, indriyam aham. I am indriyam, I am shariram, I am manaha. Iti, the one who takes oneself to be as good as that. That avidyavan is the one who is affected by avidya. Avidyavan is affected by avidya, not the one who is free from avidya. So, jiva is the one who is affected. And that too, jiva only in ignorance is affected by ignorance. When the jiva is enlightened, right, becomes wiser, then the jiva is not touched by avidya, right? Samsaritva does not touch that liberated person, liberated jiva, that free jiva, avidya does not touch. Such jiva is called jivan mukta, right? Therefore, here tamasaha param, one who is always free from, always above tamas. Why it is tamasaha param? Because arka varnam, like the varna, the brilliance of arka, the sun. Sun is not touched by darkness, and darkness caused, whatever is caused by darkness The sun is not touched. So it is brilliant, it is bright. So Atma, Saprakasha, it is Purna, it is not touched by avidya or its effects. Only in Jiva, in ignorance, the Jiva thinks that I am a samsari, I am affected, I am subject to affectation. Now further, Purnam, always full, right? There is nothing lacking in it, because it is everything, because Atma is everything, it is Purnam. What is limited can never become Purnam, right? We cannot add some finite number in arithmetic, no? Finite number like 5, 7, 11, finite number. Add one finite number to another finite number. Say add 5 to 7, 5 and 5 plus 7. Or even multiply. Multiply is only repeated addition. Okay. You add one finite quantity to another finite, it does not become infinite. Limitless it won't become. Finite plus finite will become finite only. Parichinnam plus parichinnam can never become aparichinnam. It's always parichinnam. So, adding up of finite quantities can never make purnatvam, fulfillment, fullness it can't make. It can only be the swarupa, purnam. Swarupena purnam, by itself purna. This is the truth of Atma. If I do not understand, assimilate, comprehend this, I am Purna Atma. If I do not understand, at least I tell myself as a suggestion. Like, self, what is it called? What do you call that? Auto-suggestion. Like an auto-suggestion. Yeah, auto-suggestion, here it is not incorrect. It is the truth. Pending my understanding the truth, I can at least have it as an auto-suggestion. I am full. I am satisfied. Right? At least as a suggestion, the sadhaka can practice, can tell to oneself, I am satisfied. Let that be the starting point of my transaction. That is my auto-suggestion. I suggest to myself, I am satisfied. Being satisfied, I start to do things. I do my things being as a satisfied person. Not I do things for satisfaction. Right? There's a world of difference. I do this so that I will become happy. I will be satisfied. By doing this, by getting this, I will be satisfied. That's a different world. That is the world of a samsari. Whereas the sadhaka tells to oneself that I am satisfied. Being satisfied, I do this. This makes a lot of things easier for one to do. One can be free from a lot of inner pressure, inner stress, the tension. Like one can be free from a lot of it if one can begin from this stand. I am satisfied. Being satisfied, I go about doing my role, my responsibilities. And also I may want to do something, but that wanting something, that something is within my swadharma. Being satisfied, I do this. Happily, I do this. Not for happiness, I do this. Okay? That makes, as I said, one can be free from a lot of pressure within. The pressure of raga dvesha, one can be free from it a lot. When I say I am satisfied, when I tell myself that I am satisfied, I am at least to some extent I am free from the pressure of raga dvesha. So one can function without being under the pressure of raga dvesha. Pressurized by raga dvesha, I do this, I do that. No, I can be free from that. Also, my outlook will be far better. My outlook about myself, my attitude with reference to myself and with reference to people, and then behavior, situations, all that. No, it will be a lot more healthier when I start with this. I am satisfied. I am happy. That way, when I look at the world, my sight, my perspective, my standpoint will be definitely better. Like even suppose I am hungry, so hungry, been hungry for some many hours or some days. I have been hungry. As a hungry person, when I look at food, my outlook food actually will be different. I need to grab, I need to gobble, right? Fill my stomach and my throat and all that. With food, my look at the food is different. Suppose my hunger is satiated, right? That hunger is mitigated, hunger is answered, I have eaten, I am full, I am satisfied. Then when I look at food, my sight, my looking at the food is different. There is a qualitative difference in what. Suppose I have achieved success, some success, my own success, my own understanding of success. Suppose I have achieved success, then when I look at tasks, then challenges, my outlook will be different. Suppose I look at myself as failure or yet to succeed, then my outlook, how I see the tasks and circumstances will be different. There will be there's a qualitative difference. Therefore, it is much better to suggest to oneself, tell oneself that aham purnaha, aham ananda swarupaha, aham triptaha. Triptaha means satisfied. I am satisfied. One more thing. This attitude, this telling myself, when I start my interaction, my interaction with another person, then I start with this, I am satisfied. Being satisfied, I interact with you. Right. When I do like that, then I don't put any pressure on you. Right? My expectation on you to satisfy me, to behave properly, to behave meaningfully, to behave usefully. This pressure I will not put on you. A psychological, a mental pressure I put on you. Right? So, in interpersonal relations also, that transaction, the interaction can be more meaningful, more rewarding, more enjoyable, memorable, if I can start with this standpoint. I am happy, I am satisfied, and I interact with you. Therefore, I am free from pressures, my inner pressures. Therefore, my responding to you will be at my best. I will do my best. So, I'll give an ear to you. I'll listen to you. I'll understand you. If I start with this, I am satisfied. I am satisfied. Therefore, I have the peace. I have the cushion. I have the leisure within to listen to you, to understand you. Right? So, interpersonal relations also become much more smoother, pleasurable, memorable, rewarding, enjoyable when I start with this aham triptaha, aham sukhi, I am happy, I am satisfied, aham purnaha. Very important. And later on, as the sadhaka practices this, later on the sadhaka will be able to discover that yes, that is so. Aham triptaha, Aham Purnaha is not just a suggestion, that is the truth about me one can discover. After all, that is my Purushartha too, being Triptaha, being Ananda Swarupa, right? That is my Purushartha as well. Therefore, it is good to tell oneself, actually at least as a suggestion. Purnam, always full, not wanting anything in itself. For happiness, I don't need anything. I am happy by myself. For satisfaction, I don't need anything to be different. I am satisfied by myself. Purnam. Also we have in that mantra, the Shanti mantra, Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, right? That is Purnam. That cause, Paramatma, Parambrahma is Purnam. Purnam Adaha. Purnam Idam. Idam, this also is Purnam. This means the world of Namarupa is also really Purnam. How so? How it is so? Because the truth of this Namarupa is Purnam Brahma alone, and therefore this also is Purnam. So, the lump of clay is also clay. The pot is also clay. Purnamadaha, that clay is Purnam. This pot, Idam, this pot also is Purnam, like clay. Therefore, the mantra Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, referring to the word Purnam. There is no sense of unfulfillment. The sense of unfulfillment is the personal wants, personal unfulfillment. Right? These are all the traits of the samsari. But then, when one discovers that I have no unfulfilled, I have no notion, no sense of unfulfillment. It is not that everything has been fulfilled. No. I have gotten everything. It is just not possible. Humanly or divinely, even divinely, it is not possible. To have everything, I have to become Ishvara in terms of Upadhi also. I have to become Ishvara with the Maya Upadhi I have to become. Then only I can have everything. Right? But with the Jiva Upadhi, it is just impossible to have everything. And even everything I want, it is just not possible. Whereas, when I say, I don't have this, I have not gotten this, I have not tasted this, what does it mean? When I say that, I do not mean that such and such thing is not, I have not seen, I have not experienced, is not really I mean. But behind that, I have unfulfillment. That's what I mean. Right? I have the sense of unfulfillment, incompleteness, apurnatva. That's what I am. In the Mundaka, which chapter you are in, like Mundaka Upanishad? Second. Okay. Later on, we are going to see an example given. Dva Suparna, Sayuja, Sakhaya, Samana Vrikshe, Parishasvajate. The simile, a beautiful example of two birds sitting on a branch of a tree. Two birds, identical looking birds. And then one bird was on eating the fruit of the tree. Some fruit is sweet, some is not sweet, it is bitter, it is sour. That bird goes on eating. Whereas the other one just looks on. Anashnan anyaha abhichakashiti. The Upanishad, you are going to see that. So, here, the one bird which goes on eating fruit is the Jiva. And then the one who without eating just sees the Sakshi, Atma. Right? Then it continues to say, the mantra, Mundaka Upanishad continues to say, Anishaya Sochati Momuhyamanaha. One works oneself, no, to one's own suggestion that I am wanting, I have unfulfillment, I am incomplete. One has worked up in one's own mind this repeatedly repeatedly suggesting to oneself in the form of a suggestion or at least a feeling, right? I don't feel I am complete. I don't feel I have accomplished. Like, that sort of feeling. Like, that's also one has repeatedly worked upon oneself. It is called anisha in the Upanishad. Isha means ishitvam, fulfillment. Anisha means, that is one meaning in the meaning in that Upanishad, the mantra. Anisha means the one who does not have ishatvam, one who thinks that I am not Isha. Our friend Anish has a different meaning. That's a different meaning. Okay? Ishaha na vidyate yasya. Who is the Isha, but who is not lauded by anyone else. One who is not, that is the meaning. That is Paramatma. There the meaning is different. But in the Mundaka, the meaning is different. The lack of fulfillment, lack of power, that is the meaning in the Mundaka. Anishaya shochati, worries, right? Subject to grief. And then continues to say, when that bird which grieves, when that bird understands that I am that Paramatma, then it is free from that shoka. It's all said in the Mundaka. We are going to see that. So, Purnam here, the Jiva in ignorance assumes that, goes on suggesting to oneself that I am Apurnaha, 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 Apurnaha. So Upanishad points out, hey, no, Purnaha, 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 right? So you are Purnaha. The sense, the notion that I have unfulfilled wants, I have unfulfilled is a problem. I have no fulfillment. This I am not fulfilled. I am not satisfied. This is a problem. As long as one tells oneself, it's like adding, now I said, no, finite to the finite. Atruptaha na tripyati. It is said, atruptaha, the discontented person, right? Gruntling person, disgruntled, right? The discontented person can never discover contentment, because the person looks upon oneself as discontented. I am Apurnaha, Atriptaha. That is a declaration. I am Atriptaha. Come on, make me Tripta. Like even, no, suppose I pull a face, frowning and I'm pulling a face, and then I tell you, come on, make me laugh. Don't tickle, okay? No tickling. Come on, make me laugh. Make me laugh. How can you make me laugh? If I have decided that I am not going to laugh, I am not going to smile, okay? Then how are you going to make it? You will never be able to make it. You may stand on your head, you may do clown, all that thing you may do, but I will not laugh. Because I have declared that I am not going to smile, I am not going to laugh. Like that, I have declared to myself that aham atriptaha, I am discontented, full stop. Now make me contented. How can you do that? A bottomless vessel, right? Come on. The bottomless vessel tells the ocean, come on, fill me. In one Hollywood film, no, like Arnold says, come on, kill me, he says. Like that, this unfulfilled person, come on, fill me now. It can be never filled, okay? Because it is bottomless. Right? Just a mug, okay? A bottomless mug. The ocean cannot fill it. Even the seven seas cannot fill that mug. Why? Because bottomless. There is no bottom. So if I start with that assumption, I have one working myself, atriptaha, then atriptaha na tripyati. Then who tripyati? Triptaha tripyati, that's all. The one who sees the contentment in oneself is able to invoke. That person alone can find the contentment. The happy alone finds happiness. The contented alone find contentment. The good alone see goodness. Okay? At least as a suggestion, as a practice. No? So it's very, very important to invoke the triptaha in me, the satisfied. Here satisfied does not mean inactive. I am satisfied. No, satisfied, I am active. Right? Like Krishna, like Janaka. So satisfied, I can do my roles. Therefore, Purnam. It's very important to tell oneself. It's one of the, that will be Prataha. Prataha, may I tell myself, I am satisfied. As a satisfied person, I start my day. Not with the complaints, no. Right? Oh, no hot water, no electricity, no fan, no warmth, no chillness, no this, no that, no that. Okay, dissatisfied, I have complaints. Now, satisfied, I can face that situation. Situation may remain the same, but then my outlook towards that, with reference to that, can be a lot different. Therefore, Purnam, very important. Then further continuing, Sanatana Padam. Sanatana, the Sada means always. Sadatana changes into Sanatana. Sada means always. The Tana means which has a nature of being always, being there always. So Sanatana is Nitya, is eternal, permanent. Sanatana Padam. That is the Padam, that which is sought. Padyate iti Padam. That which is sought, that which is gained. Right? Discovered here. Not gotten really, but discovered really. Discovery is something, discovery already exists, you discover. We don't say Columbus invented America. We don't say Columbus invented America. We say so and so invented Edison, Alva Edison invented the bulb, we say. That is an invention. But we say Columbus discovered America. What means what? America was already there. It's not that Columbus created America, right? So it's a discovery. So it's a discovery, Sanatana Padam. What is discovered as fullness. I discover myself as fullness. That is Sanatana, ever existing, Sanatana Padam. And then Purushottama, Akhyam. Akhya means called, known as. Akhya means name. This Akhyam means known as Purushottama. We have in the Bhagavad Gita the Purushottama Yoga. Uttama Purushastvanyah Paramatma iti Udagratah. We chant every day, lunchtime and dinner time. Uttamaha Purushaha is Purusha Uttamaha. Uttamaha. Ut means above, Tama means the highest. Uttama, the highest. Ut means high, Uttama means the highest. The highest, the most important, because it is the truth. And that is Purusha. Purusha means, there are a few meanings for this word Purusha, given meanings. Purusha in the normal usage means a person. Like we say in the language, Pratamaha Purushaha, Pratama Purushaha, Madhyama Purusha, Uttama Purusha, we say. So there it is person. That's a different meaning. But when we say, Kitne Purush aaye, how many persons came? Right? Kitne log aaye, how many came? There the Purusha means an entity, a person. But here, a different meaning. Purusha means the Puri, one meaning. Puri Sete. Puri, in that abode. Puram, Puri. Pur is the town, the city. The body is compared to, likened to a city. The physical body and also the Sukshma Shariram also is considered to be a Puram. Puram Ekadasha Dwaram. It is said in the Upanishad. City having 11 gates. In the olden days, no, the entrances to the city. Even now we have cities as entrances. The roads are there. Earlier there was a fortress, right? A fort around the city, and then there were entrances were there. Dwara entrances were, gates were there. So here this body is like a city with 11 gates. Puram Ekadasha Dwaram. So these are the dwaras, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, like you count the gates, there are 11 dwaras. In the Bhagavad Gita is mentioned, Navadware Pure Dehi, there is 9 gates. There, only the physical, the openings are counted. In the Ekadasha, 2 more are counted. One is that Brahmarandra is counted. It's not visible. And then another at this toe, tip of the toe, another it's counted. Like there are various ways of counting. There is not one way of counting. One way you count as 9, another way you count as 11. So it is Puram Ekadasha Dwaram. So this body is like a city compared to a city. There are members in a city. There are citizens. Like in the body there are members. Right? Limbs are there. And then there is a king in the Pura in the olden days. The ruler of the city, the chief, the mayor, or the king of the city. Here, I the Jiva or I the Atma is the Swami, is the ruler of that. So this is the one who indwells in the city dweller. Puri Shete. Shete means dwells. One who dwells in the city. Who is that? Atma. In the Puram called Sharira, Atma is said to be the dweller. So that is a Purusha. Purishete iti Purushaha. The indweller of the city called Stula, Sukshma, and Sharira. This is called Purusha. Also, Puranat Purushaha. One who fills Puranat. One who fills everything. Right? Like even our clay fills the pot. Water fills the well. So too the Atma, Brahma, Ishvara fills everything. Puranat Purushaha. It fills. Minus Adhishtanam. Minus the truth. The Namarupa cannot exist. Right? Minus clay, there is no pot. Minus water, there is no wave. Minus gold, there is no golden ornament. Minus me, the Atma, there is no body, there is no mind, there is no seeing, thinking, living, etc. It's not there. For I fill everything. I, the Atma, I, the Brahman, fill everything. Therefore, Puranat, Puranam means that which fills everything, that which pervades everything. This is the second meaning. Puranat Purusha. Third meaning, Purnatvat Purusha. Itself is Purna and therefore Purusha. Different ways of interseeing the word Purusha. Purnatvat Purusha. That which is Purna. That is therefore Purusha. Another fourth meaning, Pura Aushat iti Purushaha. What was before, what has gone by, avidya, samsara, papa, etc. All that Aushat, Dahati, burns up everything. It burns up samsara, avidya. That is the Purusha. That which burns up everything, burns all the samsara. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Jnana Agnihi Bhasmasat Kurute. Right? Jnana is compared to Agni, fire, which burns down everything to ashes. Right? Burns to ashes. All unwanted stuff we do, no, on holy day, right? On some festival day. That's a custom in some parts in India, no? they accumulate, put all the unwanted things in a heap and then light up and burn it up. Okay? The unwanted things are burnt up. So too, all the notions of samsara, etc., they are all burnt up in the light of whom? In the knowledge of whom? That is a Purusha. Burns up samsara, papa, karma, everything. So that is a Purusha. So, Purishete Purushaha, indweller of the body. Puranat Purushaha, that which pervades everything, Purusha. Purnatvat Purusha, that which is Purna, full by itself. Independently full. Fourth is Puram, Pura, Aushadat, burns up everything, all the papa, samsara. Purusha, and that is Uttama, Purushottama. A very beautiful word, nice word. Purushottama Akhyam, called by the word, called by the name Purushottama. Who is Purushottama? Aidatma is Purushottama. Aidatma, Brahma is Purushottama. And then further, Yasmin Idam Jagat, in what? In which? Yasmin, in which? Idam Jagat, this world, this universe. Idam means that which is seen as an object, objectified. Idam, all this, idam, this. All that can be categorized as this. This table, this clock, this book, this room, this mat, right? This fan. All this can be categorized as this mountain, this river, this sun, this man, this woman. All that can be categorized this. It's all idam. Idantaya grihitam. What is understood, what can be seen as this. This is the idam jagat. Also, what is seen clearly, I see the world, I hear the sounds in the world, I taste the taste available in the world, right? So, that which is very clearly seen, visible world, known, knowable, that which is known. Here, what about unknown? Unknown is known as unknown. Known is known as known. The known entity is known as known. It is known. Table is known. Now the table is known. I understand this is known table. Yeah, known as a known. What about unknowns? There are so many things I don't even know. I can't know also. There are so many things whose existence I am not even aware of. Right? I don't even know that such a thing exists. What about those? Unknown also is known as unknown. That's all. தெரியாதுன்னு தெரிஞ்சதுன்னு नहीं जानता हूँ नहीं जानता हूँ ऐसा जाना है, जाना जाता है. That's all. Known as unknown. That's all. So that's also known. This prapancha, known plus unknown, this idam jagat, and he says ashesham, everything including shesham means something remaining, baki something remaining. Ashesham means without anything remaining, without any remainder, without leaving out anything, including all, the entire. That's the meaning. Shesha means not entire, in part. Ashesha here means in its entirety. What is the entirety here? Past, whatever that existed in the past, and whatever that exists in the present, and whatever that's going to exist in whatsoever future, right? That's all Ashesham. Right? In Trishu Kaleshu, in all the 3 points of time, and everywhere, everything, Stula, Sukshma, and all that, like Vyaktam, Avyaktam, all that is all Ashesham. Idam Ashesham Jagat, Yasmin, in which Pratibhasitam appears. Pratibhasitam, the word is there, the end. Pratibhasitam, all this world manifests, shows up, appears, in which What is that in which this appear? It says Ashesha Murtau, that which assumes all forms. Murti, form. Ashesha Murti means all forms. That which assumes all forms. What is that that assumes all forms? Atma, Brahman. Like even I assume the form of seer, thinker, listener. I assume the form. I assume the form of a wise person, a knowledgeable person, an ignorant person, young man, old man, right? I assume all those forms. Sitting person, standing person, talking person, listening person, all that I assume. That is the Ashesha Murti. In that Ashesha Murti, Ashesha Murtau, that which assumes all forms. It's a magic. No form assumes all forms, right? In fact, what has no form of itself alone can assume all forms. That which has a specific form cannot assume other forms. I assume this is a human body, right? I cannot assume the body of a cow or an elephant. Now I cannot assume, because this I assumed one form. What has assumed this one particular form. What is of one form cannot take on all forms. It cannot take, right? Suppose we have a stone. Say a stone is there. I put that stone in a variety of different vessels of different shapes. A round, a cylindrical vessel, spherical vessel, cubical vessel. What is the other one? Rectangle, and then cube, square. And what is the other one? Yeah. Whatever. Hexagonal vessel, tetragonal vessel, octagonal, whatever vessel. Okay. Different type of vessels. No shape vessels, shapeless vessel. I put the stone in such vessel. What happens? Stone retains its form. Right? Because the stone has a particular form. It cannot change its form to suit the vessel, to fit the vessel. Suppose I pour water in those vessels, whatever vessel I pour in, the water assumes that form, because water itself has no shape, it doesn't have a shape of itself. Therefore, it can assume wherever it is poured, wherever it is held, it can assume the shape of the vessel. Our point is this: a formless entity alone can assume all forms. A formful entity cannot assume all forms, because it is formful. One particular form alone it can be there, but not all forms it cannot take. This is the what do you call it? Riddle. Yeah, riddle like. Formless alone assumes all forms. Similarly, nameless alone can take on all names, right? Anama can alone have all sarvanama it can take. Arupa alone can have sarvarupa. So, Ashesha Murtau, that which assumes all forms, which is free from a form, any particular form, any name by itself. Yasminidam Jagad Ashesha Murtau Pratibhasitam. All this world appears, shines, manifests unto in that Paramatma Brahman. Why indeed Pratibhasitam? Why indeed that's how it appears. Truly, verily. Why means verily. Like what? The familiar example. Rajvam Bhujangamaha Iva. Bhujangamaha is a snake. Sarpa. Serpent. The serpent appears in what? In Rajvam, on the Rajju. In fact, the Rajju alone appears as a snake, but then in expression we say the snake appears on or in or upon the rope. That's all. It's all in the rope, upon the rope, on the rope. It's whatever you say, it's okay. So, on the rope, in the rope, the serpent, like even the serpent appears. That's why, and then interestingly, Pratibhasitam, apparently, that's all. The rope has not turned into a snake, right? Has not given birth to snake. has not changed into a snake, or a part of a rope appears as snake, that also it is not. So pratibhasika only, pratibhasitam is just pratibhasika. So this is one standpoint. The world is pratibhasika, is one standpoint. From another standpoint, we say the world is vyavaharika, transactional, right? Transactional, another standpoint. One standpoint, the world is called as pratibhasika, illusory. Remember, don't be carried away by these words, illusory, transactional. These are all from standpoints it is set. From different standpoints it is set. Like even dream, when I dream, I make a statement about dream object in dream. Okay? I make a statement about a dream object in the dream. While dreaming, I make a statement. Okay? What will I make? A real elephant, a real tiger. That's what I will make. But when I wake up, what will be my statement about the tiger and the elephant? A dream elephant, right? A dream tiger. That's a different. So from different standpoints, I understand the entities differently. From different realities, I look upon the different entities differently. You don't look upon a thing in the same way. To change the standpoint, the description changes. Right? Therefore, here the pratibhasika is from one standpoint. The world is all illusory, mayika. It's all from one standpoint. From another standpoint, vyavaharika is another standpoint. Here, the Rajvam Bhujangamana is pratibhasa, pratibhasika. So too, the world is only pratibhasika. Here, pratibhasika means it is not paramarthika. That's all idea. It is not paramarthika. That's the idea. When we say vyavaharika, pratibhasika, and when we say mithya, the meaning is that is not paramarthika. That is not the true truth of it. The real reality, that is not it. It is not paramarthika. So like even the serpent apparently shows up on the robe. So too on Brahma, in Atma, the world of Nama Rupa, world of experience, that shows up. Pratibhasitam vai. Okay, we'll continue the evening. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva